Hi, I'm Andrea Cooley with Des Moines Mom, and I'm here today with Dr. Whitney, a pediatrician with the Iowa Clinic in Ankeny. How are you doing today?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. But as a mom, I think many of us are starting to think about back to school, and sending our kids back to school during a pandemic is definitely, there are just a lot of questions on our minds about safety and how to keep our kids and our families healthy. And we just love to hear from you what your thoughts are on kids going back to school and how we can, keep them safe and keep our families healthy.
Yeah, I don't think anyone could have predicted kind of where we would be, whether it was last spring or this coming fall. And honestly, people don't know what the next year is going to look like either. It's a lot of up in the air and trying to be flexible as things change and we learn more. Probably one of the biggest things that I've told my families when they're coming into clinic is to try and be open with your kids as much as you can. Obviously, that'll depend on age a little bit. If you've got a kindergartner versus a high schooler, but trying to be honest with them and put it on their level so they can get some sort of understanding of what's going on. Because parents a lot of times are surprised at what their kids can comprehend and understand, and that might go a long way in terms of getting everyone on board and on the same page.
Right. I know my kids are a little bit younger, so I have a 3, 5, and 7-year old. And even the other day, I had to go somewhere for a work meeting, and my daughter immediately said, she's the youngest. She said, "But what about the sickness, Mom?" And I said, "Oh, it's okay, honey. I'm going to wear a mask, and I'll be okay." But they hear us talking about things,
Yep.
and they are aware of it. So I think you're right. It's important that we have conversations with them. So I guess, for elementary age kids, if they're going back to school and have to wear a mask, what are some conversations that moms should be having, just to kind of familiarize their kids with that?
I think, especially for the younger kids, like elementary, talking about the reason behind wearing a mask. So, obviously, it's a very divisive topic, but getting to the point there, whatever the decision is for your district, if it's out of your control, trying to be supportive of your child, knowing that they'll be in that environment. So, we wear a mask to protect not only you, but to protect mom, protect dad, protect siblings, whoever it may be. If they have someone who's at higher risk, you can maybe identify them a little more. This is protect people like grandma or whoever it may be, but kind of explaining the purpose behind it. Um, Also, for younger kids, sometimes having them wear it at home a little bit first, or if it's a quick trip out in the car to pick up groceries or something. So it's not day one of school and they're wearing it for the first time, because it's definitely a big change for them. But definitely is.
No, those are great tips. Another question I think that families have, as we're kind of getting out and socializing more, what tips would you have for going to birthday parties or having, friends over to play? Or do you have recommendations for kind of keeping safe and still doing some of those activities?
Yeah, I think a lot of it, obviously, children's mental health and adults is very important with all this too, not just their physical well being. So it's important to socialize and to try and get them some of that sense of normalcy. In terms of kind of group activities, whether it's a birthday party or play dates in the neighborhood, a lot of it is variable based on an individual or individual families' risk factors. So are they perfectly healthy? Do they have someone who's at higher risk, who has pre-existing conditions, issues like that? So having kind of a good talk within that family unit of what everyone is comfortable with, but then also with whoever you're going to see. So if the birthday party is at next door and they've been kind of isolating as well, or they haven't been, and it's not saying they're right or wrong, just what is your family comfortable with, and what there's going to be risk involved in everything. So what level of risk are you comfortable with? Obviously, we'd recommend social distancing, trying to keep your distance between other people, absolutely staying home if you feel sick, even if you think it's the sniffles and it's got to be something else, erring on the side of caution, we'd encourage. But a lot of it just takes a little more work on the front end of talking to the other families involved, talking to your family and figuring out what you're comfortable with.
Sure. Yeah, I think that's That's so important. Just being open and communicating with, with the people that you're around, and yeah, just being really hyper aware of any kind of symptoms. What
Mhm.
kind of symptoms, you mentioned sniffles or a little cough, which, could be seasonal allergies, it could be COVID, what kind of things, especially as kids are going to school and, we're trying
Yep.
to keep them home if we need to, but
Mhm.
um, what kind of things should families be looking for to maybe, keep them home from school?
So obviously fever is kind of the hard and fast one. If they have a fever, they
Yes.
need to stay home. Um, Runny nose, cough, trouble breathing would all fall under things that we'd want them to stay home. If a parent is concerned about their child, maybe is it allergies or something else going on? Do they have asthma? Call your pediatrician, call your family doctor. We're here for that reason. And sometimes we can't 100% know, but we can help you kind of navigate that too and hopefully get to an answer. In kids especially too, we're learning more and more that they may have stomach symptoms, so kind of upset stomach, loose stool.
Okay.
So being kind of on the lookout for that more than just, oh, they ate something funny yesterday, but maybe that's a good reason to keep them home, which we'd recommend anyway, but especially
Right.
with everything going on, keeping them out for that.
No, those are great tips. I also know, this time of year is a big time of year for back to school physicals and well child
Mhm.
checks. Um, but at the same point, I can see, families might be hesitant, like, oh, if I don't have to take my child to the doctor's office, I should avoid that right now if we're healthy. But what would you advise in terms of that for families?
So I would advise them to go to the doctor like normal. We are still there. We are still seeing patients. And ultimately, it's still very important. Kids still have developmental problems. They still get sick from other things. They still need vaccines. It's very important. So we would encourage them to still keep their regularly scheduled or the routine care that they're due for. A lot of clinics are taking steps to ensure the safety of patients. They're probably more safe than they have been sometimes in the past, actually. Um, every clinic's a bit different. At the IO clinic right now for pediatrics, we're separating well and sick care. So if you have a fever or COVID-like symptoms, you aren't coming into the main part of the pediatrics area. They're seeing you more down in urgent care where they have proper PPE and just to kind of give families a peace of mind of separation for right now. And we're continuing to do that. So if you bring your baby in and they need their vaccines, we want to see them. We want to make sure they're growing. We want to keep them up to date on vaccines to protect them from other things that we know we can right now. So it's very important. And if parents have questions about their own practice or their own pediatrician's office, they can call them and see what steps they're taking too.
Those are great tips, and hopefully will give parents some peace of mind. I think, like you said at the beginning, there this is unprecedented, and
Mhm.
we're all kind of navigating this new normal. Do you have any other final like precautions or tips for families as they're heading back to school? Maybe extra things they can be doing to kind of boost their immune system or kind of prepare for being back in an environment where they are exposed to more people.
I think a few things. I think trying when you're at home, keeping the kids on somewhat of a routine, but at
Mhm.
the same time giving yourself grace to realize, like you said, it's unprecedented. So we always as pediatricians talk about screen time, realizing that right now everyone's getting probably way more than they should. And you got to be flexible and work with the kids a little bit and work with the parents who are working from home. Um, so understanding that things may not look normal, but trying to give kids some structure because it helps them from the mental well-being standpoint too. Even if they don't verbalize it or acknowledge it, it'll go a long way in helping them feel security and a sense of normal, even if it's a different routine than what they're used to. Um, the other thing is obviously everything going on can be very stressful both on kids and adults. Stress leads to different emotions coming to the forefront. So trying to be honest with your children, but also presenting as much as you can a confident face or reassuring them, because we know as adults that we're all nervous and we don't know what's going on, but that's only amplified in kids. So trying to be a source of comfort for them and being a sounding board to answer questions as they come up. I think all of us also could use a little bit of patience and flexibility, knowing that there are many opinions and most of them aren't right or aren't wrong. They're just opinions and everyone can have their own.
Mhm.
So being willing to be a bit flexible this year, I think will go a long way because ultimately everyone wants kids to be educated. They want them to be around their friends. People have different thoughts on the best way to do that. So if we can all take a deep breath and be a little flexible. It might go a long way in helping to solve some of the issues that may come up.
Those are great tips, and hopefully will give families a little bit of just permission to make their own choice and to be confident in what that is, no matter what this back to school season looks like. So thank you so much, Dr. Whitney. I appreciate you taking the time and for just kind of giving us some more information.
Thanks for calling. It's been nice chatting with you.
Yes.